And now joining us to discuss the pursuit of justice for wrongdoing under the former government is Polish Justice Minister Adam Bodnar. Hello, and thank you very much for joining us tonight on TVP World.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Yes, now we've seen quite a number of high-profile charges and arrests of opposition politicians from the previous administration on charges of abuses of power, misuse of public funds. But so far, only relatively minor figures have been tied up and been charged. Will you take action against some of the higher-ups in the Law and Justice Party, as they must have known about these abuses taking place under their watch?
I think it's a good question, but first of all, it is not my decision to present charges or to basically decide on who is going to be charged with different crimes. And second, I would not agree that these are just minor figures. Mr. Romanowski, who has been subject of this procedure to lift his immunity, and as I understand today, there is a court hearing concerning his potential pretrial detention. He's a former Deputy Minister of Justice. So I think that it is quite a high figure in terms of administration with money, with the Justice Fund. And we'll see how things would go and to what extent all those cases that are subject of proceedings right now may produce some further accusations against people who have been supervising the work of ministers.
Many are wondering about, of course, Law and Justice Chairman, Mr. Jarosław Kaczyński. Could he potentially be involved in any charges down the road? Is there anything that the ministry is looking at currently?
We are not working like this, that we are looking at one or the other case in order to kind of find some arguments. Simply, my mission is to bring accountability. I think that in this transitional moment, when we are getting out of 8 years of illiberal regime in Poland, it is important to present and to bring justice to those people who are simply misusing the system for the political purpose or for simply financial gain. And in the case of the Justice Fund, it is the special investigative team that is dealing with this case. And simply, we have this notion in Polish language that the investigation is subject of further development. So it means that maybe at a certain point, for example, Minister Ziobro could be subject of some proceedings because he's the one who knew about the case and he didn't react because he didn't have, he was, to a great extent, his party was taking advantage of this Justice Fund, and this Justice Fund was used to a great extent as a kind of a purse for the political purposes of this party.
Yeah, some type of slush fund. Now, Mr. Kaczyński and other opposition politicians have accused you, sir, of pursuing a political agenda, a political campaign, using the justice system to target members of the Law and Justice government, who are now made up of the opposition. What is your response to such accusations?
Just look at the Justice Fund. The case is known, that the abuse with the Justice Fund is known more or less from 2019, okay? In 2019, there were first really comprehensive reports by journalists about different abuses of money from this fund. Moreover, next year, in 2020, there was a comprehensive report of the Supreme Audit Chamber. Moreover, the government of Mateusz Morawiecki has been informed about those abuses. Even we have a letter that Morawiecki government is asking Minister of Justice Zbigniew Ziobro, what are you doing here with this, and what is your reaction to the Supreme Audit Chamber report? And there was no reaction whatsoever. So what I do is simply bringing justice to a situation that has been not subject of accountability until 2023, because there was no political willingness to do anything regarding this. So please look that prosecution service has been used for all those years as a kind of a political instrument, as a political mechanism. And right now we have to come back to some old cases, but also we have to pursue, we have to move forward with some cases concerning different abuses, whether these are Pegasus spyware abuse, different abuses committed in state-owned companies, or this Justice Fund case.
Now, do you feel that the alleged abuse of the Justice Fund was carried out by rogue rogue individuals operating by themselves without oversight, or do you think that potentially more people were aware of this at higher levels?
Please look that this case is quite special because Minister Romanowski is not having just a charge of abuse of power, but it is also a charge of organized criminal group, which is quite rare and quite non-typical for the previous minister, deputy minister, to accuse him of that kind of things. So in the Polish criminal law, accusing somebody of being the part of the organized criminal group is something significant. But it means that you have a bigger number of people here.
Right.
So not only him, not only Mr. Romanowski, but also some other people that were taking advantage of this money, usually beneficiaries of the Justice Fund. So all those different NGOs and other organizations that were getting money from the fund in unclear and non-transparent way. And we'll see how it goes further, to what extent the case may develop. Right now we have 12 persons with charges. There are 3 persons in pretrial detention right now. There is another motion for this detention for Mr. Romanowski, but it is like a bigger thing. And moreover, I think in this case that it is not just about abuse for the money purpose, but about rather creating some kind of a network of organizations that are taking advantage of the operation of the Justice Fund, and in exchange they are providing some, let's say, political support to the Ministry of Justice, to the sovereign Poland, the party that was leading the Ministry of Justice at that time.
So some type of conspiracy almost. When it comes to the alleged abuses of the Justice Fund and the Pegasus scandal, who do you think that the final responsibility lies with concerning that? How far up the government chain of command in law and justice do you think that goes?
I see that you are coming back to the same question. I don't know. We'll see. I think, my role is to provide prosecutors with independence and with freedom to act in those cases. And we'll see what will be the consequence of their actions. I see that they are very determined to clear those cases out and to move forward. And I see there is a lot of public expectation that we do this process of transition properly. Please note that quite often people come back to some cases from the past. There was one case when Minister Ziobro was going to stand before the Tribunal of State, the court which is responsible for the constitutional abuse. And people do remember that there was lack of political willingness some time ago to move forward with this case. I think right now the feeling is such that you cannot just, create some kind of a thick line and to say that, nothing happened. Quite otherwise. If you are misusing the power, if you are taking advantage of the public money, you should be held accountable for this. And basically that is the way how the prosecution service is working these days. And at the same time, prosecution is, in my opinion, kind of rebuilding itself into the structure which is accountable to simply public opinion, that they are, with every statement, with every position, they do everything what they can in order to explain their position and their legal actions taken.
There's a risk that by pushing for lifting of the immunity of MPs, you're setting a dangerous precedent, which new governments can pursue members of the previous government. We've seen this, we've sort of seen this unfolding in the United States, but if we look at Poland, what's to say that the next government that comes into power, that's not the current makeup, the current ruling coalition, what's to say that this will not repeat itself and we're going to have a constant cycle of judicial witch hunting to prosecute politicians?
I think the answer is as clear as possible. We should be honest, we should be integral, and we should basically not think in any moment of our services to the government about taking any financial or private gain out of the function we perform. So in my opinion, it is the future, and that is what I believe really strongly of this government, to be highly integral and in what we are doing. And my feeling is that if there are no arguments later on, then there will be no risk of abusing that kind of a procedure. In this situation, please note that those cases are really very carefully prepared by the prosecution service. You know, even I remember there was a pressure, to be honest, some time ago on me, you should speed up with things, you should, go forward. And I said, come on, listen, guys, it is serious work. Prosecutors should have time to prepare all those motions to lift parliamentary immunity. But if those motions are submitted, then they are bulletproof regarding their quality. And I hope that basically they will face verification later on by Polish courts, and they will result with proper cases. So simply, we have really observed a lot of different abuses over those years, and there is no other way to move forward. You should simply go forward with different accountability procedures here.
One final question. Now, you've mentioned that the lines, the lack of political will to prosecute things that prosecutors should be looking at. What are the next steps when it comes to restoring the independence of the judiciary? How important is next year's presidential elections in this context? And what happens if the elections don't seem to pan out for the ruling coalition?
First of all, there are a number of plans. I have presented action plan to the Council of European Union regarding the rule of law recovery. And there are a few laws that are either already prepared or are subject of preparation. Even today, we've just announced the draft law on the separation of the office of the Minister of Justice and the Prosecutor General. So it is not a natural situation that I'm in those both functions. We had the separation between 2010 and 2016. Then Mr. Ziobro merged those functions, but we want to come back to the previous solution. But there are also different laws concerning the National Council of Judiciary, vetting of judges, draft law on the Supreme Court. We would like to move forward with presenting and adopting those laws by the end of 2024. And then you are right that we have presidential elections, and it seems that with the current president, there is no much chance of being, let's say, in this collaborative mood regarding judiciary. So maybe those laws would have to wait for the new president to come. And so I assume that the new president will be the one who simply supports the reform of the judiciary and the full rule of law recovery.
Okay, well, Justice Minister Adam Bodnar, thank you very much for joining us on TVP World. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that concludes this edition of World News Tonight. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time.